having help from an accredited free organization. And I know Clay loves the word free. It's like one of his favorite things. So when we talk about free organizations that can help vets, what are we talking about, Clay?
Yeah, so it's veteran service organizations. And people throw VSO, the term or the acronym VSO out there. It's really segmented into three different parts. You have a veteran service organization, which is like the VFW, the American Legion, the DAV. There are state level organizations like Dale K. Graham out in Oklahoma. That is a veteran service organization. There are thousands and thousands of VSOs. There are only about 40-ish accredited by the VA VSOs, right? So I'm in the DC area. There's a VSO that does silky hikes for veterans. That's a veteran service organization. It's not an accredited veteran service organization by the VA. So they have the organization piece. Then within organizations, which are mainly volunteers because they're nonprofits, you have VSO reps. And that is your old dude at the VA or at the VFW. And I'm just kind of blanketly making jokes here, right? It's your old guy at the VFW that plays bingo on Thursdays and helps veterans submit claims on Fridays. Okay. That is a VSO rep, a representative of the VSO. They go through training. They're supposed to go through training with that organization to be accredited through the organization to the VA. Then, and in my opinion, these are the best VSOs, are veteran service officers at the county level. They're paid. It's a paid position. You could just imagine someone that's being paid is probably going to work a little harder than someone that's a volunteer, right? And that's rightfully so. This guy's in retirement, just doing claims. Now you have a county rep, a veteran service officer that is there for you to help you submit your claims. Each state, each county has one. I'm in Virginia, and so they have the Department of Virginia Veteran Services, DVS, and they're very good people.
Absolutely. And just for transparency, I was a veteran service officer. I ran an office. I had reps under me that I managed that would actually do the claims, and I oversaw it, so forth. Great experience, great organization. And I will tell you that, I get it. It's a people thing, and not every place runs exactly the same, right? Everybody's a little bit different, but for the most part, very involved with understanding the nuance of VA. And I will tell you that there's two ways to get educated. One is to drink out of a fire hose and just do thousands of claims in a very short period of time. So you are getting massive amount of education by helping people with claims in a very short period of time, versus somebody, a friend, or somebody who's maybe accredited and they do it very part-time, low level. They do, 3 claims a month. Well, that's a lot different than doing 300 claims, in a month through an office, or 500 or whatever, thousands of claims in a year, depending on the size of the county and so forth. Absolutely. It's a people thing. Your experiences are gonna vary vastly between all of these, but they are free resources. And one of the biggest benefits that I see, Clay, and I know you're going to agree, that when you have the knowledge enough to file the claim yourself, but instead you utilize an accredited organization, whether it's a veteran service officer, rep, the DAV, American Legion, what have you, having them actually file the claim for you with that appointment of them representing you allows them to then communicate with the VA both by phone, email, and also have remote access into VBMS, which is the system for the VA's claim processing. So they can peek in and follow your claim along, which is great. You can too, to a point, but you get a very super high level when you sign up on va.gov. You get some of that, where it's moving from stage to stage, but you get a peek behind the curtain when you're working with an accredited representative. Now, I will say that's probably the biggest advantage, is getting that second set of eyes and making sure that all the right things are there, that everything's supported, and having that visibility with the VA. In no way are accredited representatives, regardless of where they're at, veteran service officer, VFW, American Legion, whatever, they are not part of the VA at all. They are working for you to get your claim with the VA. They are a conduit between you two, kind of like a mortgage broker doesn't work for the bank that you got your loan from. They just helped you get that loan, right? So sometimes you might have a feeling that if I work with the VA, are they really going to help me? Because I'm trying to get a claim done here. They don't work for the VA. And it's important to point that out, because a lot of these organizations have offices inside of VA facilities. So VA facilities will have, oh yeah, the DAV guy's down there, he has an office, or the American Legion guy, or even the county guy or gal has an office down that hallway, around the corner, whatever. They don't work for the VA. They just work down a deal with them to have an office space inside the VA to help veterans, right? So that part's important. I will say that a disadvantage, Clay, for me, and then I want to hear what you think. My only real disadvantage that I see nationally, okay, so not onesie twosies here and there. It's just kind of a national thing, and overall, not everywhere. It doesn't apply everywhere. This world is so nuanced, so it's very hard to say anything and just be like, this is the way it is, because you're going to have thousands of people that are like, it's not that way for me. Nationally, there's a problem, I believe, but it's not everywhere. And it is bandwidth with the veteran service organizations, primarily the full-time people that are getting paid to do veteran claim stuff, that are taking the big boatload of veterans claims. And as a result, they're very reactive. They're not able to be proactive. They're not able to be out in the county, representing and being at like little, job fairs or whatever, and being visible, right? They're stuck behind a door, hammering out claims day after day. And that results in, one, unawareness from the veteran community that this stuff even exists. And two, a backlog, right? So you call up. I've tried to help people find places like, I want to say it was Washington State, to find an accredited rep to help them. Sorry, we're not taking any new appointments. It blew me away.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that was the answer. It's unbelievable to me. And I will say that when it comes to that, in those specific constituencies, the veterans need to rise up and speak with the local government, right? Your county officials, your mayors, who will then push on your county leadership, all of that. Talk to your state people that can then push down and try to create some sort of awareness that, look, there is a tremendous backlog and you are not serving veterans, and see if you can get that budget increased, a couple $100,000, and get 2 or 3 more employees in there would be advantageous. But we need to speak up, because if we don't, well, then we don't get any results, right? So you just deal with it the way it is. So I would say that that's the biggest disadvantage in my mind. Is there any other disadvantages that you could think of, or what are your thoughts on it?
There are, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought it up, because myself, I have my own personal beliefs, and it's important whenever we are talking to veterans about VSOs, consultants and attorneys and claims agents, we have to remain objective. And there are advantages to each, and there are disadvantages to each. And the disadvantages are just as important to understand as the advantages. And I'm on board with you. First, rolling back, my most preferred method, and I would recommend this to every single veteran, regardless of your situation, is at first, understand your evidence. What does your evidence from service and your current evidence from private insurance or VA healthcare, what does that look like? Why do you believe this condition is connected? Do everything, gather the evidence, print it out, understand it mentally, whatever that looks like for you. Then go into a VSO office and say, hey, I'm ready to submit my claim. I want to submit for mental health. I will tell you this right now. And I did some volunteering through Del K. Graham online as a kind of navigation person, just pushing claims through their process. And I'm telling you right now, if you go to a VSO and you say, hey, I'd like to file mental health, here's my here's my service treatment records that has evidence right here. Here's my VA records that have a current diagnosis and a treatment plan. The VSO is going to be like, I love you. Thank you so much. Boom, 5-minute appointment. That's it, right? Now let's talk about the opposite, which is a disadvantage, right? Let's say you just, for whatever reason, you just can't get to that mark of understanding your claim or understanding the process as it pertains to you. And you walk into VSO office, and it is very important to point out that there are bad VSO reps out there, right? And both on the VSO side and the county side, there are it's a people job. Personality is a huge thing, okay? And you will hear horror stories of VSO reps, and you will hear, glory stories of VSO reps. And so I would recommend, just as we shop around for everything, okay? I
Mhm.
go to Costco because we got 4 kids. I got 12 things of milk in my fridge right now, because we shop around for the best deals, right? That same concept applies whenever you're looking at a VSO. So if I go into, I'll give you my very personal experience. I left the Marine Corps in 2019. There was a VSO rep. It was from the DAV, and I'm not calling out the DAV. This gentleman I remember him like it was yesterday because he was in 1-9. I was in 9th Marines myself, so we had that, camaraderie built. Although he was in his 80s at that point, I was like, my late 20s. We had I felt we had the camaraderie. So I went in the office, and this gentleman, as cool and laid back as he wasn't able to turn on his computer. He told me to make another appointment. When I tried to, he just did not return the phone calls. And I'm like, hey, I don't think, and I didn't know the process at this time. I was like, I don't think that's supposed to happen. And so then I shopped around, and that's when I found the county VSOs for Virginia, and I went to a county VSO, right? And so my recommendation is shop around. If you go to a VSO like VFW or DAV, each of those areas and posts have their own culture to it. And if you don't vibe or get down with that culture, you can absolutely just go down the street. It's completely okay. I just want to really get that out there because that is critical, finding a good VSO. Now,
And
other disadvantages. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and on that point, if you start the process with one and it goes south for some reason and you switch and go somewhere else, you'll need to file a new appointment of a representative form with the VA. The VA will only give, unless it's the same organization, right? So if you go DAV to DAV, that's fine. But if you go DAV to your county veteran service officer, that's 2 different organizations, and the VA will only allow one to
Yeah.
look into your file on your behalf. So just to kind of keep that in your awareness. Back to you.
Oh yeah. So other disadvantages or advantages and disadvantages of VSOs is I like you said a couple weeks ago, the peek behind the curtain. I can't tell. So if you file a claim by yourself without representation, okay, it's not a big deal. You can still go to a VSO and fill out the power of attorney. You can do that. If you don't, you're going to be forced to go to the regional office, which could be hours away, right? It could be next door. It could be hours away. It just depends. But depending on what that looks like for you, a VSO, and this is assuming they have the time to do it, they can say, hey, I'm on VBMS. Here are your results from your CMP exam. It looks like a favorable exam, right? And when they say that, they're just looking at the nexus. They're not really looking at the entire
Right.
thing. They're just saying, at least as likely.
Yeah,
That's a thumbs up, right?
exactly.
And that can calm some anxieties. You're on your phone checking the VA app every 5 minutes. You call your VSO. You're saying, hey, did my CMP exam results come in? They say, yeah, let's take a look. Hey, it looks favorable, right? Awesome.
Yeah.
Or the reason why you want that peek behind the curtain, maybe it's not favorable. Now your VSO is like, hey, this claim hasn't been decided yet, but based on this CMP exam, we should probably start gathering some evidence now. Why wait 4 months when we can do it now? And having that peek behind the curtain, that kind of head start, could absolutely change, the trajectory of that claim, especially when we're talking about appeals. And so that's probably my favorite part of having a VSO, is that peek behind the curtain. But we got to remain objective, right? I'm going to tell you right now, especially county VSOs, they're busy. They are underpaid and overworked. The teacher, right? The same thing as your local teacher is the same thing as a county VSO. They're underpaid and overworked. And so you might call them. One, they have no idea who you are. You could meet them 6 times, no idea who you are. There are onesies and twosies I still remember, but for the most part, you're a brand new veteran to them, okay? And 2, you say, hey, can you get me my CMP exam results? They got 500 claims to do in about 3 weeks, okay? And then you're asking for CMP exam results. They're trying to fill out initial, they're doing intent to files, they're doing power of attorneys, they're doing claim writing. So it is a backlog, so to speak.
Right.
And that is, that's a disadvantage that I think everyone needs to be aware of. To when that does come up, just kind of breathe, relax. Claims take a long time. They will get to you. I promise.
And if you have an intent to file in, right, file the intent to file yourself. Done. Make an appointment with an accredited rep. If they're out a month and a half before you can see them, it's no big deal. You have enough information to start gathering evidence, going to your doctor's appointments, those types of things, and you already know that you've preserved your effective date with your intent to file.